entrepreneurs need to give themselves a pat on the back, because talking about scaries, they have to face nearly all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it is not for the faint of heart. And I think that the women that are out there, chasing their dreams and monetizing a hobby, figuring out how to run a business while they raise children, figuring out how to, whether or not they're calling it a side gig right now or whatever, for those women to just kind of go, man, you're killing it.
Welcome to the Scaries, brought to you by Raise Her Co. I'm Sky.
And I'm Talitha. We are proudly broadcasting from Treaty 4 territory here in Regina. In each episode, we tackle alarming, inconceivable, questionable, shocking, and scary statistics relating to, impacting, and intervening with the lives of women and girls worldwide.
You'll hear the scary truth, take away tools and tips, and learn about what you can do about it. And the Scaries is an opportunity to raise awareness, share resources, and collectively use our voice as women and supporters of women to make some real change. We'd like to know that the views expressed on this podcast are solely our own opinions, and we may be sharing some statistics that are triggering, so just please listen with caution.
As straight, cisgendered, white, able-bodied settler women, we are aware of the privilege that we have, and we want to use this platform to spread awareness about the scary reality that women from around the world face in different life situations.
Why?
Because sometimes nothing is scarier than being a woman.
So welcome back to a new year, everybody, 2024. Woohoo!
We made it.
I know. So yeah, we did take a little bit we took a week off. Sorry if you
One
really
whole
missed
week.
us, but we just need a little bit of downtime to celebrate and reflect on the past year. But we're back.
When we started the podcast, we didn't anticipate that we would, for one, need a break, but also that people would notice that we took a break.
I know.
So thank you.
Thank
you for
thoughtful.
noticing.
Yes,
I'm sorry for letting you down.
Or if you didn't, then now you know.
It's okay.
But yes,
forgive
we're
you.
back. We're back with our weekly episode. And today, as we embark on this new year, we think about all of our goals, as usual, our resolutions, our goals, whatever you want to call them. And for us at Raise Her Co., that comes with always like a full-on analysis of what happened last year, what went well, what we need to work on, what are our priorities, what do we need to do to remain sustainable, and with that progression and that goal review in mind, as entrepreneurs ourselves, and we never call ourselves that because
it feels weird.
We do have full-time jobs, but we also have a full-on business as well. So it's weird for us to call ourselves on that. But anyway, we think about the highs and lows of women in general who are business owners, and inventors, and just in the business world, and what they're going through, and how it's changed or how it's stayed the same since the dawn of time. And so today we are going to talk about what life is like as a female entrepreneur today, in the past, and where we're going. And we are totally in the business of leaders raising leaders, and we do this in many ways, and many of those ways involve collaborating with, donating to, cheerleading, amplifying the voices of many, many, many local female-led or operated businesses. And we do this because we believe in community over competition. We believe in collaboration over competition. And we know that when one individual or one business is successful that's female owned, we all can be successful. There's not finite spaces at the table. There's unlimited. And let's think of it that way. So that's why we're here today, to shine a light on what it's like to be a female entrepreneur today, and kind of what are the barriers and what are the opportunities. So another reason we chose this topic on top of that is that when we look at Canada, where we live, where we're based, the Canadian economy relies heavily on small and medium-sized businesses. They actually account for 99.8% of total businesses running across the nation.
That's wild.
So even though the numbers look good, there's a worry, though, about fewer and fewer women starting their own businesses. Women play a crucial role. We don't need to share that. We know that they play a crucial role in helping small and medium-sized businesses grow, but their numbers are going down. Right now, only about 17.5% of entrepreneurs in Canada are women. 17.5%
Not very much.
in Canada. And that's the Canadian national average. That's not
Mhm.
in Saskatchewan or other rates. I think the rate in Saskatchewan is about 15%. So the powers to be are concerned. Like, that is a concern. This underrepresentation not only holds back women's economic opportunities, but also limits Canada's overall economic growth.
And when we drill down to the local data, so for our province in Saskatchewan, a recent report from the Women Entrepreneurs of Saskatchewan, aka WESK, uncovered that advancing gender equality in the creation of economic activity can potentially add, are you ready for this? 150 to 420 billion
Wow.
to Canada's GDP by 2026. That's a 6 to 18% increase. That's a lot of dollar bills.
Oh, yeah.
And hold on to your hats because there's a lot more numbers coming. With that, the Royal Bank of Canada estimates that simply a 10% increase in the number of women-owned small and medium-sized enterprises or businesses would add an additional 198 billion to Canada's GDP. Just a small 10% increase.
Wow.
So, assuming that Saskatchewan accounts for 4.2% of the national gross domestic product, just because of our small population and all of that jazz, we are 4.2%. The province stands to still benefit from an injection of 6.3 to 17.64 billion in GDP. So, like, the numbers, it's the proof is in the pudding.
100%. Let's get more women moving on the business side.
In 2019 alone, women entrepreneurs contributed 23.1 billion to the Saskatchewan economy and created nearly 192,000 jobs.
Wow.
That's a lot of jobs.
That is a lot.
Considering like our population in this city is like 250,000 or like that's a lot.
Significant.
Yeah. So why and how do more women entrepreneurs lead to a stronger economy, you ask? Well, the same report outlined that when Saskatchewan women lead a business, they are more likely to headquarter that business in this province. Yeah, which is cool. They like have
Stay local.
Yeah, keep it local. Support local, keep it local. Women-run businesses also tend to create more jobs. They contribute to 26% of the total GDP and hire around 33% of the workforce in Saskatchewan. Digging a bit deeper into sector-specific data, women own 33% of businesses in the health and social assistance sectors. These sectors are expected to become key partners in Saskatchewan's economy in the future. They require a lot of workers, which means they could create many jobs.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and how do we further enhance that economic contribution of 23.1 billion to the GDP, you ask? Well, by supporting women entrepreneurs to scale their businesses.
Woo!
Yeah.
So while the potential for women entrepreneurs is significant and something we should never lose sight of, it's important to also point out that there's so many roadblocks. There has been, there are, still are, and there probably will be in the near future. So what are these roadblocks are preventing women from starting and growing their businesses. So let's acknowledge some of those, and then we can talk about what we're going to do about them. So some of these, the main barriers are limited access to capital, lack of networking opportunities, limited mentorship and support, and social barriers.
It's so interesting that two of those are things that we just tackle as Raise Her. Like,
oh yeah, and we didn't even know this when we started Raise Her.
No,
interesting,
but that's important.
And actually, we know in our what we started Raise Her was all about helping women with building confidence and connection. So two kind of the things that are heavily tied to this. So
totally.
When we lean into a couple of those factors specifically, one study we came across found that almost half, 49% of women in Canada are looking to start a business or side hustle to meet the expenses and combat inflation. But a significant majority, 87% of these women claim that household responsibilities keep them from taking the leap. And boy, do I believe it. I do.
Well, honestly, I mean, like,
it's another job. It's a full-time job.
We're recording this late at night because we already
hours,
have responsibilities.
10 p.m.
Yeah. Like, it's not during the day, it's evening for us.
Yeah. And that's not all. According to Owner Media's recent survey, 43% of those who do get a chance to run a business complain of lack of funding, while 87% of women entrepreneurs say they would appreciate mentorship or coaching. Only 40% could afford one. So it all is connected.
Yeah.
These are just a few of the challenges that hinder growth and potential of women entrepreneurs from contributing to the Canadian economy. So again, There's so much potential there. We just need to work on addressing some of these key barriers.
Yeah, and like creating opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So, looking at the history, throughout history, women in entrepreneurship faced immense challenges and barriers. Despite not being allowed to own property in many places, they still filed patents using their husbands' names, which I was like, yes, go work. But like most women in history, their contributions were often overlooked and even erased. In the past, women had to overcome significant hurdles to excel in business with limited legal, financial, and political rights, things that we talked about in our recent episode, in the Barbie episode, for instance, like as early as the 1950s or as recent as the 1950s, 60s. Like women couldn't own a credit card or like open a bank account. So twinning.
Yeah.
Their success was still remarkable, and many women entrepreneurs in the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries succeeded despite facing considerable hardship.
So let's unpack that, because I feel like those times to be a female entrepreneur, be an inventor, really do anything aside from stay at home are like, if you did those things, it was like, wow.
Oh, amazing.
So let's not erase, let's bring back and shine a light on some of those amazing women from then who had to face so much but did amazing things.
Totally.
So there's a couple incredible women we want to highlight, and there's so many, but we only have time for a couple. So the first one is Madam C.J. Walker. You may have heard her from Netflix. This is where I found out about her. She's amazing. She was a Black entrepreneur and a philanthropist from the States. She's also a known political and social activist. So she was recognized as the first woman self-made millionaire in America by the Guinness World Book of Records.
Damn.
She made her wealth by creating a line of beauty and hair products specifically for Black women. She was orphaned at age 7. She defied odds and went on to found Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company. And in 2013, Sundial Brands purchased Madam C.J. Walker's enterprises and continues to celebrate her legacy with its hair care products.
Amazing.
In 1993, she was inducted to the National Women's Hall of Fame. And in 1998, a commemorative stamp was issued in her memory by the U.S. Postal Service, as also a part to feature her Black Heritage series. So
kudos to Madam C.J. Walker. Damn. Yeah, that Netflix miniseries, I think, was called Self-Made. I don't know if it's still available, but it's really Octavia Spencer.
Good. I love her.
So good.
Yeah, so good. So another amazing woman of the past is Elizabeth Arden. You may know her. She's Canadian. She's born in 1884. She opened her first salon in New York City in 1910, and she was instrumental in making the use of cosmetics respectable. By 1915, she was selling her products internationally, and her company was on its way to becoming a global brand.
Dang.
In 1966, she died at the age of 81, but by that time, there were more than 100 Elizabeth Arden salons around the world. So another amazing woman.
Is there not one here?
Elizabeth Arden? There used to be. I don't know.
I swear there was one. Anyways, congratulations.
But we all know
Elizabeth.
the name. Yeah. And Viola Desmond, another Canadian businesswoman who was also a civil libertarian who built a career as a beautician. So all the beautician advancements we've had, and was a mentor to young Black women in Nova Scotia through her Desmond School of Beauty and Culture. Desmond created the school in order to provide training that would support the growth of employment for young Black women. However, the story of her courageous refusal to accept an act of racial discrimination provided inspiration to a later generation of Black persons in Nova Scotia and in the rest of Canada, which we highly recommend you look up, because we don't have the time to cover all those details today, but check that out and read more on that. Google it. And there are so many other women that have been so inspirational and so instrumental in creating advancements beyond the beauty world, like in science and technology and like aviation, and so many key things that we take for granted today that were actually thought of by women that are conveniently erased from history. So what is that book that you read that talks about
Invisible Women?
Invisible Women. Read that book.
I have it handy somewhere. Maybe not.
It's probably under my computer here.
It's probably under Sarah's computer.
Yeah, it's an amazing book about all the women that were erased in history, basically.
It's like all the data of that like doesn't include women. So how like women are not calculated in like history and all these other things of like, oh, like all of the cavemen were hunters and gatherers and like all the men did this, and it's like, well, like who do you think like cooked, and who do you think like did all these? It's like
Not even referenced.
yeah, like it's just it's really really good. I highly recommend you
Invisible Women.
read it. No, it's okay. Skylar's tickling me. I think also maybe I don't like we should not that we have to unpack this right now, but like why are they all beauty industries? Is that the only way? Not all of them, but like the ones that we covered is because of like that's so sector specific, but like that was the only space that they were like, okay, yeah, you can go like flit around and like play with makeup and like play with hair stuff.
Right. Nothing existed that men led in those times. So they started like a novel thing.
Right.
It wasn't them taking over a new sector that's still male dominated. I think that's kind of where we see, and we'll get into this in a second, but where we see a lot of the female entrepreneurs leading in certain sectors, it's still those traditional sectors that women already are working more in. Yeah. So anyway,
they were already allowed to play in that sandbox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we've scratched the surface and acknowledging and honoring how much women have contributed to the economy and world at large as entrepreneurs, let's get back to present day and look at the impact of what a world with more equitable levels of women entrepreneurs would look like. So, how well represented are women in the world of business? And how many women-owned businesses are there? As you might expect, there have been many studies about these questions, but here are some of the standout statistics about women in business. In 2022, over 988,000 women, so nearly a million, were self-employed in Canada, showing growth despite COVID-19's impact. And around 18% of Canadian businesses, mostly small and medium-sized ones, are owned by women. However, women-led small and medium-sized businesses tend to have lower survival rates, though women entrepreneurs are showing increased early-stage business activity. Women entrepreneurs focus on innovation and particularly excel in marketing innovation at 26.1% compared to men's at 9.8%.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, we're very innovative when it comes to marketing.
We know the brain when it comes to
how to get people to get something. Yeah. And finally, globally, 1/3 of high growth businesses are led by women, as noted in GEM's 21-22 Women's Entrepreneurship Report. Next, let's look at women's ownership in different industries. So a 2022 study by Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada found that women-owned businesses thrive in professional services, retail, and hospitality. Those three sectors.
Checks out.
Yeah. However, in sectors like construction, manufacturing, transportation, agriculture, and others, businesses owned by men significantly outnumber those by women.
So like all the other ones.
Well, yeah, like everything else besides like the
hospitality,
like retail,
yeah.
So like, why do you think that is? Like, do you think it comes down to the fact that women are just we have these preferences that we just want to be in the retail, hospitality, and professional services, or do you think it's something more ingrained that we've had like those unconscious biases that we don't belong in ag? And
I feel like it's both, but I also think it's a history of like I know my mom always says when she was young the only choices she had were to be a nurse or a teacher, or a stay-at-home mom, right? And so like when that's all you think you have, well then you're just going to go to those industries, and generations and generations and generations, that's all they had, and so that's all they know. And then today that's still the majority of where a lot of women are working, which is great. We need those people in those areas, but when you can see it, you can be it. So if women aren't in those male dominated areas, a lot of young girls aren't like, I can do it. Like, it's just, it's a whole snowball effect.
It's definitely systemic. And I think that, like it comes, that was not actually like something that it wasn't a hard hitting, I didn't mean to be a hard hitting question, but just a question to ask, because I just found that interesting looking through that research was that it's like, I mean, the women that we covered in history, obviously were in that kind of like beauty space, but then a lot of the businesses that we look at also still kind of serve that, like that retail hospitality, again, as I already said. So I just found it interesting. So looking specifically at funding women, so where money comes from and how women get that money. Studies show a big difference in venture capital funding for women. Despite being fewer in numbers as entrepreneurs, women receive much less capital funding. Only 2.3% of all women teams, so only women on the teams, and 10.4% for mixed gender teams. Sadly, these percentages have stayed nearly the same for 30 years.
You know what's so sad about that is you said earlier about how women are like the leaders in innovation
Yeah.
in entrepreneurship. Like we're the ones coming up with these novel ideas, but yet no one's wanting to fund them.
No, only 2.3% of the time, apparently. Yep. On average, female founders get about a quarter of the funding they ask for, while male funders get about half. Actually, and this is just a side note, we should speak to some female founders in a coming episode. I feel like I know someone who will have a lot to say
I think so.
about not getting funding or like the fight that exists for a female, specifically a female tech founder. And there's actually this really great organization in Canada called The 51. The 51 is a financial feminist platform where current and aspiring investors, particularly women and gender diverse individuals, can come together to democratize access to capital for women and gender diverse founders.
Nice.
Yeah, so like they make it like a lot more accessible to be not like to be like a funding person, like to like actually invest in people.
Right.
And yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Cool.
The challenges are even greater for women with intersecting identities. So Indigenous women face barriers when accessing Western financial services due to systemic exclusion that prevents them from meeting basic approval criteria. Yes. And financing and borrowing costs for Black women entrepreneurs remain challenging. And they, like Indigenous women, must grapple with systemic racism, along with a lack of networking opportunities, mentorship, and training, those kind of 4 factors that we've already talked about. Less than 1% of Canadian small to medium enterprises or businesses are owned by people living with a disability. The data is lacking on how many of these are actually women entrepreneurs as well. And while there are more than 100,000 businesses in Canada owned by people who identify as 2S LGBTQIA+, contributing more than $22 billion in economic activity, these entrepreneurs still face identity-related challenges, including discrimination, difficulty obtaining funding and government assistance, and harsh public evaluation. So as you can see from these statistics we've outlined already, both positives and negatives are obviously apparent in the data. And although discrepancies still exist in terms of representation and equity, there has been a lot of progress made in recent years on these fronts. What's more, there are many examples of successful women in the workplace and women entrepreneurs making a difference. And I think that we should chat with someone to celebrate those things.
Yes, let's. All right, for this episode, we are super excited to have the CEO of Women Entrepreneurs of Saskatchewan, aka WESK, Miriam Johnson, with us today. Welcome.
Welcome.
So WESK's mission, for those of you who don't know, is to empower entrepreneurs in Saskatchewan to start, grow, and scale their businesses to drive economic growth. Here in Saskatchewan, WESK is a well-known champion of women business success and has created the Saskatchewan Women Entrepreneurship Charter. And this is to address the entrepreneurship gap in our province that offers principles and guidance for other businesses to support local women-led businesses, just like we've been talking about this whole episode. So take a look at that, visit their website, wesk.ca, and you can learn more about the charter and how to join the charter and sign up for it. And definitely check it out. So
and there's like also a bunch of good resources on there, like education and all kinds of things. So if you're looking to learn or want to become an entrepreneur, then check it out.
Yes, that was our ad.
Thanks, ladies.
Yeah.
That's really lovely.
Yeah. That's good. Not sponsored by WESK.
Okay, so a little bit about Miriam. Miriam drives WESK's mission to bridge the gender gap in entrepreneurship with a growth-focused mindset. With a diverse background, she aims to address challenges women entrepreneurs face, fostering a strong community. Previously at the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Miriam secured the Grey Cup bid and developed many impactful programs, including launching the Saskatchewan Roughrider Foundation and opportunities around the fan experience. Amazing work.
Very, very good. Huge.
Her community-focused leadership at WESK continues to create an impact across Saskatchewan. Outside of work, Miriam enjoys family time and cheering her 3 children playing hockey in Regina.
Very busy.
Yes.
You're like, yeah.
Extremely. All 3 play hockey.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so a couple quick rapid fire questions that we do for all of our guests, just to get everyone hot and ready to go. So the first one, and we ask this to everyone, is best piece of advice you've ever received.
These are loaded questions, by the way.
It is. This is
like,
a tough
what is
one.
the absolute best piece of advice? And
And from who and when did you resign? No, I'm just kidding.
There's two.
Okay.
And one was early in my career. And the reason why I think about it all the time is I went, man, that was pivotal for me. That was like such a huge moment. And, when you're young and upcoming and you're just trying, you're absorbing everything and you are in at best a middle, situation. You're doing your best to try to you're trying to succeed in what you're doing. And, I was at the government of Saskatchewan at the time. And so I was with executive council and it was a position that, we were meeting with wildly different stakeholders, from ministries to crowns, CICs, to the actual agencies, creative agencies, you name it. So just in our boardroom, these meetings are happening constantly. And so you're, some things I knew very well, like the agency side, and some things I didn't know so well, like the research side. And so the things that I didn't know so well, there were times that I would find that I would speak too much and fill that space. And so I had a manager, Colleen Opseth, who pulled me aside one day and just said, like, we were right in the middle of like looking through these just proposals. And she's like, what do you think about this? And then I was like, well, I think it's great. And this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And she just said to me, you need to learn when to stop. Like when you're done saying, like, just learn when there needs to be space. And I went, okay, note taken. And I'm sure it wasn't so easy even for her to say it, but she said it very, very gently. Mm-hmm. I received it. I felt hot, like your temperature just goes, oh my God. Like, and I just went, okay, but I heard that. And I felt it in the moment too. I was like, I was filling space. Just all these words. And so it's something that I heeded those words, and I now think about them all the time. I'll go, no, this isn't a place for words right now. Like, or you say it and then you stop, so I've learned that control thanks to, valid feedback from a manager years ago. So that was one, but the one that most recently has just been in my head was, I feel so fortunate to be the CEO of WESK, and I kind of thought, okay, you know what? I got my first CEO job. I'm 40 years old. Like, this is wild. Like, yeah, I was like, yeah. I was like, oh. And again, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. Like, but they think I can do this, so I should probably be able to do this. And I had Eric Dillon reach out to me, and he reached out. I met him through the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. He was on our board. So, and obviously in the business world, we had known each other in that sense. But he reached out to me and just said, I'm just coming off my first CEO gig, going into my next. And so, congratulations on your first. You're going to knock this out of the park. If I'm here for any type of advice that you might need. And I thought, okay. I was like, Eric, thank you so much, Eric. I'm cashing this in right now.
Yeah. Amazing.
And so I said, Eric, what would be your advice as I start this? Like, I want to start this on the right foot. I want advice of another senior, CEO to be able to actually, what is advice that you would give me, a mindset that I can even start? Because because you can read and you can listen to podcasts, you can do this, you can do this. Yeah. You're trying to absorb it all, but you, Eric, and someone that I just admired so much. And he said to me, he wrote back and goes, absolutely, I can give you advice. And he said, they hired you to lead for a reason. So when you see a decision that can be made, make it. And I kind of thought, okay, even if that's within the first 3 months, because you say you read these books. And he said, it doesn't matter when. Like, as soon as you step into this role, you were hired to lead. And so if you see a decision that can be made, don't be afraid to make it. And I thought, ooh. Okay. And so, man, for the that whole first year in the role was Eric Dillon and me kind of going, oh, this is too much. Is this too much? And having Eric Dillon and go, but is this clear? Yes, this is clear. Okay. I'm making this decision. So
I think that's like the biggest and hardest part about being in any sort of that leadership role. And I mean, I've never been a CEO, but I can imagine that, like, the imposter syndrome of like, oh, I don't think I belong here. And like, just keep reminding yourself that you in fact do.
Well, and you want to, and I think the thing I've learned the most in the last year and a half has been wanting to then go, okay, you're thinking, this is the decision I'm going to make. And you want to go, hey, I'm going to make this decision. You think that's right?
Oh,
yeah. Hey, I think I'm going to make this decision.
Just want to get everyone
that's right. And then
side.
You're like, no, you don't get to do that.
Yeah. No.
Now you just have, you don't get to do that.
Yeah. So, you gotta trust. Yeah. Trust and believe.
That's awesome. Great advice.
Very good advice.
Yeah. Okay. Second question. This is also hard. I'm just going to warn you.
I was like, I'm going to have a sip of wine.
So if you could grant one gift to women, all women, what would it be?
And this one, I saw this question and I kind of thought, oh man, like, because you immediately go, well, it's not even, the table isn't even set for all women, so you're like, well, this is, if we could assume that there was equality in that,
Right.
things were, even, that's how I want to preface it, because I'm like, man,
Mm.
there are so many factors
Mhm.
for that
Mhm.
question that I just kind of thought, oh, what is that one gift that I would wish? And then I thought, okay, the gift that I would wish to all women is peace, because I think it's underestimated just what peace can do for someone. And I mean, peace of the spirit, peace in just even your everyday life, just the feeling of peace is one of those that I think is absolutely priceless. And when you
Right.
experience it, and to me, you can experience that at any, socioeconomic factor, right?
Absolutely.
Like, but I thought it was one that I went, man, if I could wish anything, it's that feeling of peace.
Beautiful.
That makes me want to like take like a
I
deep
know.
breath and relax.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like just thinking about that. Cause even like, I feel anyways, like I need to like keep like one-upping and keep, like, okay,
Yeah.
I finished this course and I got to do this thing. And like, I keep going. And that doesn't really then create peace in my life. Cause it's like, I have so many other things going on. So,
Or peace comes when you've done it, you are having your coffee the next morning and you kind of go, what is that sensation that I'm feeling right now? It's not constant. It's when you feel it,
right.
that it's peace.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's pretty hard to always be in that. It's to
Yes.
know, hey, because I think there's a lot of people that don't tap into that and go, no, this is peace I'm feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
The exhale.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I love that.
Oh,
Okay.
thanks.
One last question.
Yeah, I'm really glad you let me think about these, by
Yeah?
the way. And
Oh,
it wasn't
yeah.
like off the cuff, because boy, I woke up last night in the middle of the night thinking about it.
Oh,
It's just sweating. No peace there.
No peace.
Thinking about peace.
So, last question is, what is your scary? And this could be like what scares you, like spiders, or it could be like what actually keeps you up at night and really haunts you.
Yeah, this was another one that I had to think about for a little bit, because I thought, what is my scary? And I think it's also a driver of mine, because it was funny, because as I started to think about why it's a fear, I also go, oh, but it also is what is pushing me along, and that's the fear of regret. And regret, raising through these three humans that I have the gift of raising, so I'm in the latter years of raising them now, especially, I've got a 16-year-old almost. And when you watch that all happen, you start to go, what have I not done? Like, I don't want to look back and go, oh, I regret not doing that. Or I regret, the fact that I should have said that. Or so it actually propels me, but it's also the thing that I fear the most is, did I not do something that I should have or wished I would have done? And so I'm very intentional for that sense. And I'm thinking, okay, no, that might be uncomfortable, but I'm going to have regret if I don't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's good that you're mindful of that though, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That you think that through.
Mhm.
So,
When it's you're scary.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like always going, oh man.
Okay. So now we're getting into the deep stuff. Well, this has been pretty deep, but we're getting into
I know, I was like,
sorry, we went there, guys.
Yeah.
These were deep questions.
we're getting
So I'm like,
deeper. We're getting into the
light rapid fire before.
just a little light light chat.
Just a taste.
Okay, so we'll take some turns asking these questions, but I'll kick us off and
Sure,
then we'll go back and forth. So, first question is, what specific challenges do you see or hear about women entrepreneurs in Canada or here in Saskatchewan specifically face when starting or running their own businesses?
I specifically starting is, I think that they feel so alone. So there's a loneliness factor in entrepreneurship that isn't probably talked about enough. People feeling like they're on an island. They're not quite sure where to turn. Sometimes they're making decisions, they haven't really done the plan to fruition, to actually be ready to take that leap into business or, have that solid ground before they go. So I think that a lot of it is there's just it's the awareness of all of the support that actually is available. Building yourself, your own circle of support outside of even the organizations that are available. But that is one of the, I was listening to another one of your podcasts as I doing my homework for this,
Awesome.
and I did hear a stat, just on the gender pay gap.
Mhm.
That it was 130 years, till, if we did nothing for there to be any parity in the gender pay gap. And, when we think about women entrepreneurs, like they had such a slow start, like they didn't get the opportunities that men did. And it's the reason why WESK even exists, right? Is we exist to support an underrepresented group, which are 50% of the population. And, sometimes I sit in this position, like, this is wild, right?
Yeah.
But
You
it's
have to do
wild.
this?
Yeah. And we're like, it's 2024. But they had a slower start. And so there are still factors around, if the woman is going back to work, that it means the man's not providing enough to the family. So there are things that are happening, and there's such a range. But I think specifically, if I had to choose just one, it's the fact that they're not fully aware of all the supports that are available, and they feel alone.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. And we mentioned a couple stats, or not even stats, but some research at the beginning of the episode about a couple, like the top 4 barriers, and 2 of them are like lack of networking opportunities and lack of mentorship and like network. So there you go.
And coaching. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome.
So moving on to the next one, are there common gender specific barriers that hinder access to funding and resources or networking opportunities?
Well, access to funding has been a massive issue.
Right.
It's one of the most significant, and another reason for our being is to offer that funding, because even so 50 years ago, 2024 now is 50-year anniversary from women being able to get a loan. So, before that, they couldn't even go and get the loan.
Right.
Even to this, and those are things, that's behavior that we still see in 2023, 2024, is the fact that women are not going and seeking funding anymore. They're like, I'm just going to have to find all this money. I'm going to save all this money, and then I'm going to start my
100%.
dream. And men are going, I'm just going to borrow the money and I'm going. And, so there's even that, because they haven't had that support. I mean, so these are, and that's 50 years. Like when you actually think about that, I'm like,
it's a long time.
I'm 41. And I'm like, that's almost as old as me. And I
Your
don't
lifetime.
I'm very young.
Yeah.
I'm very young. So
You are
there's
very
just
young.
Just a spring chicken.
yeah, no. So you start to go, like, there's major issues that you don't even think
Right.
are gender specific, and they are. But yeah, so sometimes it can be a lot more difficult to go and get the loan that you need based on maybe your net worth, or the fact that maybe you had a harder go at starting your own adult life, and so your credit score is a little rougher,
Right.
and so there's so many factors that then can prevent an opportunity from being greenlit or even given that chance. And so that's where WESK is one of many, but two available right now, which are funding opportunities up to 150,000. That's where it's like, hey, if this is something that you need, we'll do a quick little calculation. We'll be able to figure out if this is something you can qualify for. And if it's not us, we have a partner, WEOC, Women Enterprise Organizations of Canada, that can do unsecured loans.
Okay.
And so their job is to kind of go, yep. So they are doing their
Nice.
best to go, where are you at? How are you doing? Absolutely. We can fund this. That's why we are here, is to kind of go, okay, where is the problem? Where are the opportunities? Where are the resources that we can provide to fill the gap?
It made me think when you said like women just being scared and wanting to be more cautious, like that risk aversion, which I feel like is in so many aspects of being a woman, like even applying for jobs, right? We don't apply unless we have all the criteria and more, and men apply when they have like 50%, right? Like it's so interesting to see that level of confidence and that risk aversion that's just like innate to so many of us. So,
and it's perfectionism too.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So perfectionism. We had Kelly Garrett speak with us at our AGM.
Yes,
Ladies were there.
Yeah.
But when she and I were talking about some things, we even prepping for her to come and speak to the audience, and she had even said to me, Miriam, what's one of the biggest pain points? Like, where do you think some of the biggest issues are with women? And she goes, I think it's perfectionism. And I said, you know what, Kelly, you're absolutely right. And we've done even the data. We can see it is these little, they just want it to be just right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so it's just different. The mindset, the way that we women are built, really. I mean, it's just the way we are. But that's where you almost have to do the training on our side, going, don't wait for that.
Mhm.
Don't wait. If this is a dream, like, here are the things that you can do.
Yeah.
So it's both, right?
Oh God, it's even starting this podcast. We were like, it's not, we don't have all of the right things.
Oh,
And like,
yeah,
I'm
we don't know
not
how to
ready
do it.
yet. Like we were too scared. And then it was just like, you just got to try.
Yeah.
Got to try and
Me too.
fail
Yeah.
or succeed.
Hopefully.
Always succeed.
Hopefully
Always
succeed. Yeah. Yeah.
So next question, how does WESK work to address issues related to gender bias and stereotypes in entrepreneurship? Some of which we kind of went through.
Well, yeah, because there's so much that's interwoven, I think, with this. But this one is specifically around, what are the deeper issues? And, and it's funny because I was even, as I was coming in, I'm like, well, I don't think people are cautiously going in and being like, it's gender bias that I'm doing right now. These are actually the things that we are finding, and what we are trying to be advocates for are the systemic things, the things that are so deeply rooted that are almost unaware. Organizations don't even know. And you mentioned in the intro, the charter, and the charter is specifically for organizations who are saying, okay, DEI is important to us. We know that there's a significant gap here for women entrepreneurs, and we're going to do something about it. So one of the biggest barriers that we're facing is the fact that women-owned businesses are not getting the opportunity at the table whether or not it's all the procurement opportunities through large crowns, ministries, business, you name it. It doesn't just sit at the government by any means. These are municipalities. These are large scale organizations. These are people with major buying power that are buying without being intentional about where their dollars are going. And a lot of times that is just going right back to that male run organization business, and these women are trying to come up and like get that opportunity, and they're not. And so the charter, we're asking minimums of 5 to 15% of their spend, which is still way high for all organizations. I mean, globally, we're at like 3%. 3% of spend going to women entrepreneurs.
Wow.
So things like that, which I guarantee you, no one's going into their seat going like, I'm not going to help the women today. Like that's not happening, right? It's these are deeply rooted things that we are just trying to say, are you measuring? How are you measuring? That's why we started our database, the Women Owned database, to say, do you need a place for people to go find these businesses? We have 700 women-owned businesses on a database. And so, those are where we start to go in and go, okay, that's an issue. What are the things that we can do to help solve that problem, specifically within Saskatchewan? And then, but yeah, that's one, that's one really big one. But again, it is, but again, it's not a conscious.
It's like, I mean, you mentioned that it's going to take 130 years that we had talked about in another episode about the pay gap, but it's like, it's going to take 130 years because there's all these other things that we still have to tackle and get over and work towards. And so if we were just putting all of our effort into the pay gap, or we were putting all of our effort into making sure that women entrepreneurs were successful, or we were putting all of our effort into making sure that like everything is equitable, then but like everyone's
it's 180 years for the entrepreneurial gap. 180. So if we just all did the exact same things and just let natural life go, it's 180 years to get parity for women entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Which is mind blowing.
It is crazy.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, we're 50% of the population. I know. We had a late start.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
We'll get there. With people like you, we need it. So moving into, you talked about a lot about funding. So what financial support mechanisms are available for women entrepreneurs, and how can they access these resources?
And this one's so sector specific. So, WESK is an umbrella organization. We are an umbrella support organization. There are very specific support organizations, though, across the province, across Canada. It is truly, if you're food and beverage, there's even an organization called Feed that can actually go in and help you even connect to, areas that are specific to that sector.
Wow.
They don't offer funding, but they can go in and actually go, hey, I know what you need here. I'm going to connect you to this person. And then the funding usually comes from WESK. There's a lot of, but there are, if you are in tech, you've got funding certain ways. If you are in ag, you got funding certain ways. If you name it, you've got it. If you're an Indigenous women entrepreneur, you've got tremendous opportunities. So there are different elements for every single sector, every single time, so you can come to it's too big to answer just
Right.
very quickly. But it's still a really good news answer to say there's a lot. So it is not minor. I mean, so here's another example. I had a meeting with Tourism Saskatchewan. Tourism Saskatchewan is saying, hey, we are looking for organizations that are trying to create experiences that either have a current business that could be, experiential, and there's grants and there's loans and there's this and that. And do you know of anybody? And we were like, yeah, we do. So they kind of came and, raised the, this awareness on the fact that they've got, they're trying to align to the appropriate organizations that are ready for something like that. And I kind of thought, it's phenomenal, so experiential. We've got one entrepreneur, and this is actually, I haven't approved any of these. And so I'll write out afterwards, but Maria, with Freeba Pottery, she's such a unique story, but she is one that, received some funding like this, so she's a potter, and she is out in rural Saskatchewan, and she's got an entire business around Freeba Pottery, and she has the honor system. You drive to her house. She's got a little outdoor, I don't know if it's a shed.
Right.
You go in, you purchase some pottery, you just write your name down, you give them money, and you leave. And so she's got an honor system, but she created the claycation.
Okay.
And so she took a business and went, I can create more than this, and I want to host. And so she's doing, and we joked with her because we're like, is there a ghost element of that? Like, are you? And she was like, no, ladies, no, that's not happening here. So we laughed about that, but a whole claycation, so you take your girlfriends, you go up, you learn how to do pottery. You're out in rural Saskatchewan. Anyway, that's one, example of where she worked with us, and then, these opportunities came, and she's
so innovative,
running into claycations. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love when, I think that's just like the fact of like taking opportunities, but also being open to opportunities and having access to opportunities, because I even know just with us, like things that we've been able to access is just because of like having conversations and making connections, and like not realizing that there's an organization called Feed that like we could, get into the food and beverage and they could help us. Like I just didn't even know about that, and I wouldn't even know to search it, if I wanted to get into that.
And that's where even, they're called an ecosystem partner. So when you find organizations like WESK that are provincial, that, are those umbrella, follow them, and then start to pay attention as to who they're sharing, so I know for us, like, we're wide open on, if there's things that are happening across, just the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the province, we're making sure that we share it. Here's the opportunities. Here's this partner doing this. Here's this happening here. And so it's like, it's not an WESK only channel. It's very much watch and see what's happening to kind of go, that's me. That's something that registers with me. So
very cool.
Or our newsletter.
Yes, register for the newsletter.
So many ways to get informed.
There you go. It's true.
So on that note, we talked about financials. Let's talk about education. So how does the education system support preparing and empowering women entrepreneurs in Canada?
I'm actually really impressed right now. Since coming into the role, I didn't know, that was not something I came in with any type of education myself on. And I have learned just how deep this education is going, even into and specifically in high school. So, opportunities and the teaching of the fact that like even running your own business is an option for a high school graduate, instead of going, okay, well, you have to choose this and you have to go to college. You have to do this. You know what? You can have a hobby that you monetize. And this is how you do it. You need to think about these things.
Yeah.
They are teaching them, business plans. They are teaching them all the fundamentals and giving them that opportunity to go, you know what? And it might not work. But you could actually go, hey, I'm going to try this. Nah, I don't know. Not going to do that one now. I'm going to try this. And you can just keep trying. They're at this beautiful age to learn, but they are actively teaching this in high school. Then it goes into post-secondary. And that is where, your U of R, your U of S, all have very robust programs that, if it's even a thought, which actually, you know what? The word entrepreneurism, like entrepreneur, some people go, nope, that's not me. You two are entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
and people go, no. And it's like, if you're monetizing a hobby at all, if you've taken that hobby that you love so much and you're going, no, this is now what I'm going to do. You are an entrepreneur. And so but it's a tough word to resonate with, especially
is.
with kids,
Yeah.
whether or not it's university. I mean, even grown adults go, I didn't think I was an entrepreneur. And so sometimes I want to change that name. I'm like, can we just blow that name up? Anyway.
Yeah, we need to
Fair.
rebrand. It needs a rebranding.
Yeah,
so hard to say,
or a
too. It's
few
a
words,
mouthful.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Yeah, I actually saw this recent study that said that, is it Gen Z, the like newest generation that's coming up? I think so. The like out of I'm like
I don't know. There's so many.
Okay, the young
tried to keep up.
older
Tried to
teens,
keep
young
up.
20s, who are like getting out of high school. They're not going to college or university. A lot of them are not, because it's, for one, so expensive,
Mhm.
especially in the States. And they are taking these like alternate routes, and it is looking at like monetizing hobbies and that type of thing. So it's really impressive, because that's not something that I would have ever probably been like, I'm just going to risk it. I mean, that risk aversion piece.
Well,
also,
and it's
but-
so easy, like on TikTok and like so many ways,
Totally,
like all
yeah.
the affiliate marketing programs where you can sell stuff for companies by just promoting them. Like
Mhm.
you make money in so many ways now. So yeah, that's very interesting.
No, but I think that our youth are much more aware of this as an option than,
Totally.
100%.
than we or our parents or anything ever were.
It's just that like access to information.
Yeah.
So speaking of access to information, are there mentorship or training programs in place to help women develop the necessary skills for entrepreneurial success?
Well, yes, that's part of what WESK does too. So there are partner organizations that do this as well, because it's not just funding, right? So
Mhm.
yes, you need that cash in order to start that business, but a lot of times it's the pain point. So we will do large surveys, and we'll kind of say, we ask the women to tell us, like, where are the pain points for you and your journey. And so they will, they'll respond, and we will hear that it's not everything. It's one thing. This is my pain point. The finance side of my business is my pain point, or I'm really struggling at knowing how to market. And as soon as I touch social media, it's overwhelming, so there's things that are their pain point, and that is where we start to go, okay, we are going to develop our programs around that. And so how do we make sure that we are providing the resources so that if it's that pain point, that they're able to go, there, I feel better now. I've got a little more confidence, and on they go. And then they can keep seeing the succession. On the mentorship side, that's where, like, we've got networking events called WESK Connect, both in Regina and Saskatoon. We're also going to be pulling these out into rural Saskatchewan. So,
amazing.
So we've got WESK Connects, which are just specific for people to actually meet each other.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's, you look across the room and you go, I have admired that person for so long, and here she's right here.
Mhm.
And so you actually are able to go up and actually say, hi, my name is, and everyone's got name tags and their business. And, so it is allowing conversation. Mentorship, though, is where you make a connection with someone, and then that is a deeper level of
Mhm.
connection,
Mhm.
where we do work with, Hive YQR, and
Mhm.
this is where Economic Development Regina, FHQ Developments, and ourselves kind of went, especially Regina right now has an area where you can actually go on and say, this is your field, and they match you with a
I love that.
mentor.
Yeah.
So, those are things that we're trying to figure out. How do we still connect? Because having that mentor, having that guidance, is an art too. So it's also teaching people to go, don't be afraid to reach out. LinkedIn is such a phenomenal place to
Mhm.
just send that note. And I have not met too many. I've had a lot of people reach out, and my answer is always yes. And same thing with me. I've reached out. The answer is always yes. Like when you aren't the bot,
Right. Yeah.
it's
When you're a
and
real
it's
person.
genuine, it's
Yeah.
authentic, and you
Yeah.
are truly trying to connect with someone. They listen, and they want to give back. That's the
Yeah.
other thing I've learned.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, especially with women.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to help
Yeah,
and
totally.
see how they succeed, and it's so great.
Yeah.
I want to note too, I know West just launched like a full-on school.
Yeah,
Mhm.
WESK Learn.
Yes.
WESK Learn.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that was part of our as we listened, right? Like we did this research, and again, like I said, there was pain points, and so instead of needing, because the other thing, and we've talked about this a couple times too, is women are feeling like they're on an island.
Mhm.
And the other, the feedback that we got from a lot were the fact that, even this, like we're doing a podcast, this is after babies go to bed, and
Yeah.
it's 8:30. Whatever it is, they're telling us that the time they have to invest in themselves to actually take care of that pain point is usually between 9 and 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
And that's not when we didn't have any of our programs
No,
available.
yeah.
It was usually over lunch, or it was, our workshops were more during working hours, and that was tough for them to make. And so we went, okay, how can we create something that allows any woman at any time to be able to go on and look and go, here's my pain point, click the button and start the process of absorbing the information. And so these are they're online classes, really. They are very detailed. You can go through, there's little quizzes to help you kind of go, yep, you're on the right track, keep going, and then at the end you get a certification of completion that you can proudly share on your channels to kind of say, hey, I just completed this finance course, or
Amazing.
this marketing course, or HR course, and and it's able to go from there. So we're very, very, very excited about that. So it's brand spanking new for WESK,
but huge.
Yeah. And so you do have to dig a little bit on WESK.ca to find that, but WESK Learn is available and up and running for any woman that
So
needs something
incredible.
right now.
Amazing. Okay, so networking. Here's another barrier for women that we kind of mentioned earlier. So you kind of even talked about some of the opportunities that WESK provides, but we'll dig into this one quickly a little bit more. And I have a story on this too. But what networking opportunities are available for women entrepreneurs to connect with mentors, peers, and industry professionals?
So there's WESK Connect, and it is monthly, both in Regina and in Saskatoon. So there's every month except during summer months, because everyone wants to summer, and during Christmas, just because there's a lot of Christmas parties. And so those are the months that we just kind of go, you know what, we'll network on the other months. But every month we do a networking event called WESK Connect, where the entire purpose of walking in those doors is to be able to go and, one, show yourself and your organization and your business off, and be able to actually, if maybe that's even some of it, you haven't been able to pitch your business. Can I just tell you a little bit about what I'm doing? This is what I'm doing. And then, oh, that's really cool. But you have the ability to go and just meet other like-minded. Maybe you've never heard of, a business that someone else has been doing. It allows women to come out of, a lot of times they're at home or whatever, and then they're going, okay, there's a lot of me's out there. And so there's almost that familiarity. And then we are bringing in speakers at these events that are they're not always examples of great success, but sometimes we are even showcasing what it's like to be a startup. What are you facing right now as a startup? What has that experience been like for you? And so we are trying to just open up the conversation that maybe someone in the audience kind of goes, okay, interesting. And then an open Q&A, because normally every time you listen to someone speak, you go, but wait a minute, how'd you do that?
Yeah.
Because they can't talk about it all.
Right.
So then you open it up to open Q&A, but there's free food, free beverages. Really, the doors are wide open for absolutely anyone. You do not even need to be a WESK member to even come in the doors. WESK membership is really ours for when you need unlimited business advising. So one-on-one support and those loans, up to $150,000. That's when the membership comes in. But you do not need to have a membership to engage or network at all. Not at all.
You did something really cool at the last one. I think it was the last one. That was like, put your problem.
Yes.
And then you could the person could then put their name and number if they were able to solve the problem for them. It was really cool.
I love that.
Also, or a lot about this thing. I know a lot about taking care of dogs. So I put that up there, and then that's not what I put up there, but you're like, nobody picked that. But yeah. And then it was kind of
an easy
informal,
matchmaking.
little matchmaking,
cool.
or just here's the problem, or here's the solution that I have. Do you have this problem, or do you need this solution? Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
And are the WESK Connects streamed virtually? If you can,
they are.
attend?
So they're on Facebook Live. So they are streamed. So you can always go back and even watch. That doesn't give you the connection side of it, but it allows you to kind of see who is speaking, especially there's such a array of the women that are coming in and actually sharing their stories. And so, but yeah, they're fully available, and they're available on our Facebook.
And actually, I wanted to share a story. So back when WESK Connects were called Shaken with a Twist, is that what they were called?
Yes.
They were similar type of thing. So Talitha and I attended right before we started, or right when we launched Raise Her.
Yeah.
And it was literally, like you said, we saw someone we knew and we're like, oh, we have to see this person. And we were like so scared to talk to her, but we knew at that time she was leading Status of Women's office. So we really, really wanted to talk to her. And we went up to her, we mustered up the courage, we talked to her. It ended up with we got her business card. We met with her, Mari at the time, who was, I don't know, her assistant or executive director of something.
Yeah.
And
Status of Women.
Yeah, we're still connected with them and do so much with them. So just like that in itself.
Yeah.
It's scary at first, but everyone's there for the same reason.
Yeah.
So
we were so scared.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. We were like, okay, it's time. We can't leave. We have to go. It was scary.
Yeah. So anyway, it works.
Okay. So moving on to policies, the fun old policies that are in place. What policies or initiatives are in place to promote inclusivity and diversity within the entrepreneurship ecosystem? Or maybe what should be created?
That's a loaded question, because to me, this is work that is never going to be done.
Right.
And so there has been a lot of work either on, this is one of those examples of, depending on even where these women are coming from.
Right.
Let's even use our Indigenous women entrepreneurs as an example. When you start to go, okay, if we are aware of the fact that it's let us show just how much support is here, but there are gaps.
Right.
And so one of the benefits to WESK is we get to sit at tables and learn where the pain points are. And our newcomer women to the province is an area that needs a lot of support. And there's just not enough people, not enough resource, and for the amount of people that are coming in and need that support and even understand, how do I even go about this?
Sure.
So navigating a new Canadian is daunting in itself, and it's a pain point right now within the province. So you kind of go, okay, well, this is how we can help there.
Right.
And so the province goes, that's great, thank you. Let's work together to do that, right? And so, but you have conversations and you sit at those tables where you start to go, okay, we don't have this here right now, and so I would say that there's been a lot of positive work done, but it'll be forever. That'll be something that has to be constantly adjusted, because the need will never go away and it will always be changing.
So how does WESK, or what does WESK do to ensure that its programs are designed to be inclusive and address the needs of women from all kinds of backgrounds?
Well, I say we start inside. We start internally, and we start to go, is our organization reflective of an inclusive organization that would make someone feel comfortable to even enter, right? And so that's one of the first things we did, is we actually went, okay, where are we in this whole picture, let alone what is the support that we can provide? Because I think that, safety, feeling safe, feeling secure, feeling comfortable is a lot of that. And so we kind of said, okay, well, where do we even sit on this? So we created we have a report card, DEI report card that we built based on, worldwide feedback. We kind of went, okay, well, we got to start somewhere. And so we as an organization started to go through, where are we at here? And it was like a ranking out of 1 to 5. And every single person in the organization, we would all just kind of go, this is what we all think. We had a cumulative report, and we quickly kind of went, we didn't expect this to be off the charts great, but we needed to start somewhere as even ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you start to go, okay, and even that, you start to go, there's so much that we have to be cognizant of, aware of, making sure that we've got a finger on a pulse of that, being inclusive, and so we even ourselves are going, are we showing that in the way that we hire, in the way that we develop our programs? How are they even made available? Same thing. We start to go, okay, where were our pain points, even as a provincial organization? Well, we're a not-for-profit. And so we don't have all the money in the world.
Right.
We're constantly looking for funding in order to increase impact across the province. And so, we've got some core funding from our main funding partner, Prairies Can. which allows us to do the business advising and the fund and the loans. But then we start to go, but there's more to be done.
Mhm.
And that's where we started to go, okay, how do we gain enough financial support to offset, to have the team that can actually go and build and execute to
Right.
make that. And then as those teams build, that's when we get to go, okay, how inclusive are we? Are we
Mhm.
showing up in a way then that is reflective of, the support that we want to be providing? So that's one example.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it's so
huge.
much more than just like making it open to women. It's
Yes.
like all the intersectionalities that exist.
Yes.
And yeah.
Well, and a lot more than a lot of companies have at all.
Yeah.
So it's a huge, just starting is the first thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, impressive that you are self-aware enough to do that. So
Yeah.
thank you for doing that. Okay, so I want to hear about some ways that WESK celebrates female entrepreneurs who have benefited from your support or educational programs.
Well, this is the fun part. Like, this is the best part. So, being a provincial organization too, I think also adds to it because you just, you see such an array. But we've got a gala. So one of the ways that we do this is we've got a gala, and we've got awards that, we kind of ask. We kind of say, who do you think is amazing at this?
Yeah.
Or do you think that your business is ready for this? So
Mhm.
there's different areas that people can actually go, yeah, I think my business might be able to be awarded this.
Right.
Or we've got a celebration of an achievement award. So that is the highest. That's like when you go, who is at the epitome of their journey, where you
Right.
just go, wow,
Mhm.
congratulations. Like, you have so many of the province aspiring to be like you.
Right.
And so I think that, the gala is one of the most significant ways, because you have a room full of 400 women who are usually all entrepreneurs, all supporting each other. These are organizations that are so excited to be in there, and then the winners, when they are announced to me. But what I like the most about the gala is sharing the stories behind
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
businesses. And so actually kind of going, okay, like, I can see why they're like, that's unreal. Like, so I just love having an entire, evening just to celebrate them. And then, there's a fancy award. I mean, it's also, especially for the entrepreneur, because it's so alone, when you get to walk away with some hardware, like,
Yeah.
like, that's not bad.
No, totally.
So, it allows for that element as well. We also do a summit, which is later in the fall now. We've separated our
Oh, okay.
events. That one's more for education. But again, we are trying to find, this is another mentorship opportunity. We're trying to find the women who can actually come and speak to other women
Mhm.
or other organizations that are doing an unreal job
Yeah.
and can come and actually address the women that are there, because the summit is 100% about education.
Right.
They're trying to leave with actionable things in order that they can do as they leave, like right then and there.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so that's the summit. So
Yeah. I think that when you talked about like celebrating at the gala, it's also so important for other entrepreneurs to, or anybody really, to like see it as well.
Mhm.
So they may be at the absolute epitome of their career, or they may be at the top and they've been succeeding for so long, but like, where did they start? Where did they come from? What did they do? Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I can do that.
If you can see it, you can be it,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay. You talked a little bit earlier about partnerships and collaborations and all
Mhm.
the different groups within the umbrella that you connect with. So what are some of those organizations or government agencies? You mentioned a couple. Don't have to repeat, or if there's any you haven't mentioned. And when you partner with them, how does it enhance and support the whole ecosystem?
Well, this is largely what I do. So this is what the hat I wear the most is relationships. And so, having the conversations, on the provincial side. So I spoke about Praise Can, which, is fundamental to what we do. But at the provincial government level, it's mostly trade and export. So TED, trade and export development, and immigration career training. So ICT. Those are the two that we work the closest with. And what we do and how, and for government and provincial government, we're always finger on the pulse going, where are the pain points with the government right now? What are there any things that are there things that we have available right now that we could actually work together on to fill that gap?
Mhm.
And so it's a lot of just conversation. It is, where are you guys at? What's moving forward? Things are changing fast. Here's where we are at. It is having authentic, very open conversations, and so that is one of the things that is great. You have seats on things like the Saskatchewan Business Council, where these are the heads of business
Mhm.
in the province, and you are hearing from, one example was, we just met in December, and the conversation was around human trafficking and hospitality. Saskatchewan spoke on what they had been learning and just the awareness for this, and I mean, like, we were blown away,
Right.
but we're also going, okay, well, where's your pain point? So it's mining, it's construction, it's this, and so at that table again, you're going, whoa, you go, it
Yeah.
just makes your eyes go, okay, but finger on the pulse, where are the opportunities? Hey, how are you procuring?
Right? Or you
Yeah.
sign a charter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then teaching that's, those are the conversations you're having that too. So, the procurement side, but I, mostly my voice is usually used on, so it's finger on the pulse. What are the themes we're seeing? Are there any nuances that have been coming up? Things that we haven't seen in the past? Are we noticing any pain points that, might be indicators to the government, about, some of the progress that they might want to see? So it's things like that are just kind of that ongoing maintenance and management.
Awesome. And so this isn't a question on our list, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
for it.
Maybe you may or may not know, but how does Saskatchewan measure up to other provinces across the country on supporting female entrepreneurs? Do you have any of that information?
Well, there are stats. I mean, so you can just go on and you can see numbers across the board, right? And so we do very well. I would say that, when I even measure myself to my counterparts, like we meet and exceed our targets every single year, so that's great. But the metric, and I think that some of this is even just population based,
Right.
we're at 15%. It should be, the national average is 17%, so there's things like that you go, like we're still not there, and so for natural growth. But I would say that we as a province, the thing that I'm most proud about is the fact that WESK has taken on advocacy. There's a lot of my counterparts across the country that have not necessarily gone in that deep to say, no, like, here's a charter, we're going to show you where the problems are. Here's a charter you need to sign. And how are you guys doing this differently to actually give these women an opportunity? And not, so, because a lot of what you see is the day in, day out support to the entrepreneur through business advising and the loans and the financial. But what are we doing to change that systemic stuff?
Huge.
And so that's what I think I'm most proud of. And that is from my predecessor, Prabha. And so that is work that WESK did long before I went in. And so my job is to go, I still eye on the prize.
Yeah.
Here we go. And I'm proud of it when I sit at those national tables.
Yeah, absolutely. That advocacy is so huge, and it's felt in this province. Yeah. So talking about measuring that impact, then, are there specific metrics or indicators that you use to evaluate these effectiveness of, like, your different initiatives that you're putting on? Obviously you have annual report and that type of thing, but in what ways and how do you measure them?
Yeah, so a lot of what we try to do is identify what stage of business women are in. So are you starting up? Are you in a scale of growth stage? Because that just shows health too. When you kind of go, okay, if everyone's starting up but no one's scaling and growing, that's an issue, right? If everyone's scaling and growing, no one's starting up, that's an issue. So measuring all of that to kind of go, okay, that's a health factor. Are women asking for financing? And if they aren't, why? And asking counterparts. And this is nothing to this. No one makes. WESK doesn't make money on giving, on providing loans. By the way, there is interest that comes in and goes right back into the pool to help other women.
Yeah.
Unlike banks, that do make a profit on interest, WESK does not. And so, even if no one took loans out, it's not like we go, oh no, our loan portfolio would grow, but that's an issue, right? So there's things like that we are measuring, going, okay, so those are health factors, right, in themselves. And then we kind of pay attention to, because sometimes people aren't ready for business advising, or the financial side is just the natural engagement,
right?
How many women are around? Are they coming to events? Are they feeling that? And a lot of times we're trying to even measure, are we WESK meeting your needs. Because then if we're not seeing the people show up or do that, then what do we need to do to listen differently?
Right.
What do we need to do to adjust to make sure that we are? Because that's a sign of just not delivering on what they're wanting. But there are definitely, I would say more so we're measuring just those hard numbers though on startup, scale, sector. We kind of take a look at, where are the sectors?
Right.
We take a look at, and this is actually even, they hadn't even measured this before, but it is now even on inclusivity and going, okay,
Great.
how diverse are the women that we're serving? So all of those are numbers that we report on.
A couple more questions left, and we're talking about the future now. So what are some new and exciting initiatives that you can share, or some plans that are in place to further support and empower women entrepreneurs in Canada or in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, well, and I can answer both. Because obviously we've got our eyes set on Saskatchewan as WESK, but at the national level, government and as government changes, you always go, is their focus on women going to change? And is the fact that there's always calls for funding, and one of the things that I found very interesting was the last big call for substantial funding was to organizations that could offer services to more than like 5 or more regions. And so where the federal government is actually kind of going is they're going, okay, how much more impact can we make? And instead of it being so just in Saskatchewan, they're starting to go, hey, Saskatchewan, could you actually offer that in Manitoba and in BC? And you kind of go, well, yeah. So there's that kind of thinking, so I won't go into details, but to me, even knowing that type of thinking and those programs are being developed and we are issuing them, like, so you might see programs that are popping up that you're like, oh, that's different. Well, that's an ecosystem partner that we've signed an MOU with. So we're going to promote your program. And it's something that we don't offer. Of course, why wouldn't we offer it if it's something that's a total gap for us? Of course, our women need to see this. Yeah. And so we are working with people from across the country now to kind of say, we absolutely are going to help. So I love that. The other is on the national scale is they're trying to find solutions, right? I think that's probably what I love most about a leadership role, period, is finding solution. Okay, we got a problem here. You got to find a solution. Yeah. and one of them is on, and we talked about the charter and having a database. But when organizations do want to make that decision to support a women entrepreneur, how? We have a solution in Saskatchewan because advocacy is a passion of ours.
Right.
A lot of our counterparts do not. And so that is where, there are some really big thinking on, national databases and things like that, where women, women-owned businesses across the country will now be shared. And so organizations that are committing to that level of change have these resources instead of trying to find even their own solutions because they're trying to be intentional. Right. They're now going, now we have this. So there's a lot of things at the national level that I get really excited about that I'm like, oh, I love it. So that's one thing. In Saskatchewan, some of the things that I think, especially that you'll see from WESK, is, we feel like we're doing pretty good in Regina and Saskatoon, but we're a provincial organization. So you start to say, well, how are we serving rural Saskatchewan the way that we want to serve rural Saskatchewan? Yeah. It doesn't mean that rural Saskatchewan isn't able to do all the programming and all of that, because there are ways, but we're like, no, that's not good enough. And so we are going to be executing in this fiscal a rural program that is bringing WESK into rural Saskatchewan, and we're very, very, very excited about that. So even right now, like our membership base or the people that we even see that sign up for our programs is still like 30% rural, which is pretty legit for population. But we want to do better. And so that's one of the areas. Youth is a focus, but the other is that you'll probably be seeing is on newcomer women and navigation of newcomer women. So rural Saskatchewan, newcomer women, and WESK Learn. Those are the things that I'd be like, watch this next fiscal.
Exciting. That's really exciting. The interjurisdictional thing is really exciting because I think, probably a good thing about COVID was that like everything can be online and we can all access everything if that's like what the program is. So that's really cool. I like that. More heads are better than one.
That's right.
So the next question then is, what skills and experiences are critical for those future generations of women to have in order to succeed in business?
Whew.
Nothing like the heavy hitters at the end.
Yeah, it's tough because it's not like I don't think that that's a necessary, like, this skill and this
Right.
experience. I think for future generation, what is so great, and when you think of the time, 180 years for, entrepreneurial gender parity,
Right.
what I love is we can see in our day in, day out, like the way that our own culture, right? Like, we are watching the way families parent is different, the way we are raising our children is different, things like that. And it's going to take continued change at that level for it for us to get to that point where it's like, hey, you know what? You don't have something subconscious that's telling you can't do it anymore, because all your life you've been told you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. We are just getting to that point where, the generation is getting to the point where they were told they couldn't do it. And you get told you don't get to do it long enough, you won't do it. And so
Exactly.
there's things like that I get excited about, that I go, you know what, when we continue to see change like that, I think that we will see a bumper of change. It's going to be magnified, because I don't think that people are going to tolerate, if it's not. And so as toleration goes down, more impactful change, I think, will happen.
That's very exciting.
Yes, I agree.
Stoked for it.
Yeah. That next generation. And we're already seeing it as we work
That's
with
right.
so many youth,
We
and they're
are.
just
Yeah.
like blowing my mind. Like the things that they do and they say, and they're 18, like, wow. It
It's
is just this
wild.
next generation
Yeah.
is, watch out.
It's
In
good.
a good way. Okay, last question. Dun, dun, dun. How does WESK envision contributing to the long-term success and sustainability of women-led businesses?
I mean, that's the number one goal, really.
Mhm.
And I think that's the number one mission is just that. And if they can't, or for some reason that is out of the control, you then go, okay, well then what else do you want to do? Like, to never let the dream die. But I think that, that is our essence, is, the contributing to just long-term success. So sometimes that's, what I would love is that instead of women feeling that they are alone, that they reach out. And so, it's not scary. It's so easy to just kind of meet up and have that person to talk to. But I think that this is our goal. So contributing to long-term success to women entrepreneurs in this province, that's everything.
Period.
That's what you're all about.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to share with us, Miriam, about being an entrepreneur in Saskatchewan, about anything that makes you scared for the scaries?
Well, no, but I think that entrepreneurs need to give themselves a pat on the back, because talking about scaries, they have to face nearly all of them.
Yeah.
And, and so it is not for the faint of heart. And I think that the women that are out there, chasing their dreams and monetizing a hobby, figuring out how to run a business while they raise children, figuring out how to, whether or not they're calling it a side gig right now or whatever, for those women to just kind of go, man, you're killing it. Like, and you've got a lot of people around you. And so it's just, go find that piece. It's yours.
Yeah.
I love it.
Mic drop.
That is a mic drop. That's going in the intro, Miriam. Thank you for that soundbite. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. We love chatting with you. And I think that hopefully everyone knows a lot more about how to access programs with WESK and how to be a successful woman entrepreneur in Saskatchewan. There are so many resources and so many fantastic things that you can look into. Just chat with anyone from WESK. They are happy to help you. Again, lots of fun events. If you are listening to this again before the 10th, come and hang out at WESK Connect.
Come every month.
And yeah, thank you, Miriam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was a pleasure.
So that was absolutely incredible conversation. Thank you again, Miriam, for joining us. I've learned so much, and I think that while there are still challenges for women entrepreneurs, it's a very promising outlook, and I'm really looking forward to those kind of expanding on those things that she had already talked about in terms of like what's coming for the future. So in this episode already, we've discussed the barriers holding women back from thriving in entrepreneurship, along with the enormous economic potential if more women become entrepreneurs. So what's being done to change these numbers? Here's the gist. The Canadian government and its partners need to focus on equity and inclusion, making entrepreneurial opportunities accessible to everyone, especially women. This means providing support, resources, and infrastructure tailored to women's entrepreneurial needs. The steps Canada is currently taking include ensuring women have access to funding options to manage business finances. So like the WESK funding or all those other ones that Miriam talked about. Offering training, mentorship, and educational resources for skill development. Like
also an option at WESK.
Yes,
and I'm sure other provinces have the same.
Totally. Creating networking opportunities for women entrepreneurs to connect and share experiences like WESK Connect, and addressing social barriers to foster a more inclusive business environment. Again, things that WESK is looking at. To support women entrepreneurs, the Canadian government has committed $7 billion to the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy. Yes, big dollars. This program aims to assist women in starting and growing their businesses.
Nice.
Yes. Implementing the strategy is crucial to closing the gender gap and creating a more inclusive business landscape in Canada. And to learn more about this, you can actually visit canada.ca for details on the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy. If you want to be an entrepreneur, or you're looking at being an entrepreneur, or you are an entrepreneur and you need support, you can go there to find more about that.
Okay, so that's what the government's doing. So how might we individuals move the needle in accelerating and closing that entrepreneurship gap? Well, we actually play a pretty crucial role in supporting the advancement and success of women entrepreneurs through various actions and initiatives that we can take. So here's some. I'm just going to do speed round. The first thing is be a mentor. Like share your skills, experience, guide women in business. Whether or not you're an entrepreneur, you still have likely unique skills, whether you're marketing, HR, business, tech, whatever, that can help certain businesses. So share that expertise and be a mentor and find those mentorship opportunities. Investor support, consider funding women-led startups. Look for those. If you have the means, do that. Promote and spread the word about young women entrepreneurs in your network or that you follow or that you've purchased from, but amplify their voices. Attend events. There's many going on, and even just by going to like a shopping event or a trade show, like attend those events, support women entrepreneurs, but connect and network with them in gatherings. Use your platform. Like I said, amplify women entrepreneurs' stories on your social media and tag them and share with others. Share resources and introduce women entrepreneurs to other connections on LinkedIn or people that you think would make sense and support their business and advance their business. Advocate. Support policies and always support policies promoting gender equality in workplaces. Join women's groups. Start a women's group in your organization. Engage with them to support women entrepreneurs. Look at that Saskatchewan Entrepreneurship Charter that WESK has if you live in Saskatchewan, and look at the criteria for your organization to sign that and start advocating or including more women entrepreneurs in your business.
Totally.
It's not a long list currently, so I do encourage you to look at that. Challenge biases, like we talked about. Look at those gender biases. Call out microaggressions. Call out unconscious biases. The only way they're going to move the dial on those systematic issues is by addressing them and acknowledging that they exist. And just simply buy from women-owned businesses. Just try your best.
Support us.
Yes. So all of these individual actions, when combined, as always, can create a significant positive impact on the advancement of women entrepreneurs. By actively participating in these efforts, you can contribute to a more inclusive and diverse entrepreneurial landscape.
Period.
Yes. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us as we confronted these terrifying but real life statistics that impact women and girls. Stay tuned for more ways to make it a positive impact, and together we can make the world a little bit less scary for it to exist as a woman.
Follow us on Instagram at RaiseHerCo and at scaries.podcast, and on TikTok at RaiseHerCo. Remember, change starts with awareness and action, which we are doing here today. Thank you for being a part of the Scaries community and making this world a little less scary to exist as a woman. Bye.